And this is
oh,
the...
sorry. I haven't thought about any of these answers, so it's gonna be very interesting. Really, like, shoot.
I haven't either. We just made them on the spot. Is it long-term relationship? Did it already start? Oh. Okay, so today we're talking about
Friendships.
Friendship. We're gonna add a little friendship or somewhere here.
Like SpongeBob.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Okay, so do you want to start or me?
You can go ahead. How long have we been friends for, though?
I don't know.
Would you consider, like, the first time you met me, like, the beginning of our friendship? Or would you not consider that?
I think friendships are made because I think that would just be like I just know you, but I'd have to build a connection to get to know you or to become a friend. But it's weird because we say friends, we're more like family, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah, that's true. It is kind of weird to say friend.
Yeah. I guess we say friend because we're not blood related, but we're basically like family. But
yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a good friend. So I don't know what would be the difference. So it's good. We're talking about friendships today. What would be the difference of Christian friends when someone has Christian friends versus non-Christian friends? Because we all have them. Nothing wrong with that, but we just like what would you think like the difference is? Because you were going to your school, so you kind of have like an experience.
I think the difference for me.
Why are you laughing?
I don't know. I'm shy. I think the difference for me is that I think you could really go in depth with somebody. Like, you could have like a real connection. I don't know. I think it all has to do with like the connecting. Like, how could you connect with this person? Like, can you connect with them on a deep level?
Right.
And so I can't really get to that deep connection with somebody who doesn't share the same beliefs as me, because we can't really talk about things that are spiritual.
Right.
And
I don't get it.
Yeah. And like with friends, like I feel like there has to be like kind of like you guys talk to each other about things, problems, or just somebody to talk to. But I think that when you talk to somebody else who doesn't kind of believe the same way as you, it's kind of almost like they give you advice, but like it's
not spiritual.
It's not like the spiritual aspect of it. And they might give advice and it might not be the right advice for you, and you're like, well, but I don't do those things, or I don't do that. Like, if I were to sit and talk to somebody, and like they're not from church and they were a friend, and I would tell them like, hey, I'm depressed or whatever, and they'd be like, well, just go out with the girls and just go to the clubs. Have some drinks. You'll be okay. Just let time heal. Time heals everything. Just have a good time. And for me, I can't. That's not good. That's not like the answer for me. So I rather get more of like a spiritual aspect of it. So I think that's also nice and like a friend and a friendship. And I always think that you could connect with somebody on a deeper level when it's somebody who has the same exact beliefs as you or shares the same beliefs. What about you?
Well, because when I was working, and then I was in office and I was working with like some girls, and there was one girl in particular, and I would try to like witness to her and talk to her about God, and she knew of God but didn't have a good relationship with God. So when I would try and speak to her, and I would actually go out of my way to go eat with her and actually try and get to know her, but it just wasn't connecting, like the relationship. I was really trying to befriend her, and it just wasn't working. I tried, and I was trying my best to, be like that light for her, even try talking to her. When I was trying to tell her Christian how to, pray or this and that, she didn't really understand. You know what I mean?
And
so
was she like receptive to it, or was she just like?
I mean,
she was just like kind of like brushing it off a little bit.
Yeah, like it's like, oh, okay, but she wasn't. It was just really hard for me to connect, and it was just really hard. And I was to Jose, like, I'm trying to be friends with her, but it's not working, because it's kind of like how we're in church, so we have a fellowship with God, and then we have that connection with God, so we can talk about God, and we feel like united. So with her, there was it was a void, it was absent. So I couldn't connect with that level. I just couldn't.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that she probably doesn't understand that you go through.
Right.
And, yeah. So it's like, it's kind of like, if you don't have like that mutual understanding, then how are you gonna like talk about things? How are you like gonna bond over things? How are you gonna,
Right.
So I understand that.
Yeah, because she would come telling me she was depressed or for whatever reason. I was trying to tell her, how we pray about it, or we have our pastors, we can talk about it. But since she didn't have that, she would subject to maybe going out drinking or doing whatever else. I would give her advice, but she wouldn't really take it. So that's not what I say. I really tried my best to be friends with her, but it just really wasn't working. And it was,
you could only go so far.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of fell apart and we just never spoke again. There was not a bond there. And I tried my best, I could say, but it didn't work.
Especially, it's hard. I noticed that it's hard, especially when like church is like a big part of your life, and that's like, I don't want to say like that's all you have, but it kind of is in a way. Like,
it's basically our lives.
It's basically like living the Christian life is just, it's basically surrendering your whole life to church, and just, it's literally a life laid down for the church, for God. And so,
especially ministry work.
And especially ministry work too. So I think there's a lot of aspects to that like people won't understand. You can only go so far. I'm not saying like that people can't be friends with somebody that's not a Christian or whatever, but I think that's totally possible, but it could just only go so far.
Right. And then sometimes I think what also happens is when you try to make like a relationship like that with, like I was saying about that friend, it could be any other person. I feel that my beliefs might hinder what he or she thinks, and then they start to get uncomfortable, and they just don't want to really hang out or talk with you anymore. And I get it. So
yeah, like it makes someone comfortable, and you're
right.
Like,
well, and I'm not judging them about absolutely anything. I'm just talking to them, but it's just, I think when you know God and a relationship with God,
they don't know how to respond to it. They're just like,
I know her dad always says they kind of always, they have a conviction naturally because of the way we live, and they just know that maybe whatever they're doing is wrong. Or I don't know how you want to word it, but
yeah.
No?
Yeah. that is crazy though. And now that I think of it, like throughout the years, like different friendships that I had like within the church versus the ones that like are outside of church, I noticed that like the ones in church are the ones that are more longer lasting.
Right.
I don't know if it's because like we're very involved with like ministry and stuff, and that's the reason why, but I don't know.
You could say, like, we're talking about Christian friends versus non-Christian friends, you could also say that just because they're Christians friends within the church, it doesn't mean that it's always going to be such a connection or a bond. Like, there's still problems that happen. You know what I mean? It's because we go to the same church or whatever maybe people, doesn't mean that we're going to be. How do we explain it?
I feel like, are you trying to say like, if a problem arises between the friendship, if the problem arises between a friendship, like within the church, that you have to forgive each other and move past that. Right. But for somebody in the world, they're like, do you know what? No, like I completely shut you out, or like bully you, or
take it a step further. How maybe there's people within your church congregation or whatever it may be, and maybe we just don't get along, which is fine. I didn't always get along, but as long as we just keep the peace, I'm trying to say.
Yeah, like keep acquaintances, you know. Yeah, so I think that's a big thing as well too. Is that because when you're in church and you have friendships, it's kind of like I don't want to say you have an obligation to forgive them, but you kind of have like, I don't know another word for it, but you basically have an obligation to like forgive them, and you're always going to see them, they're always going to be there. But with somebody like that's a friend outside of church, there's no obligation there. There's no like, I don't have to forgive you, I don't have to treat you this way, I don't have to, you know what I mean? So I think that also is a big factor in like how far friendships outside of church could go as well.
Right. What would you say? I feel like I'm interviewing you.
Do you want me to go? I could go. I can have some questions.
Okay.
I'll go. What would you say? You're so funny. I feel like I'm interviewing you. Okay. All right, let's see. Hold on. So, good one. What are some friendship deal breakers?
Oh yeah, friendship deal breakers. Okay, there has to be.
What are your standards in a friendship?
Okay, now before I get into this, I have to clarify something because Jose does. He gets into his argument. He doesn't believe that there's best friends and then there's just friends. I think there's some kind of argument. There's some kind of argument we got into. It just, I guess what's the difference? Like just friends and like best friends.
Oh wow! I think best friends are closer than friends. I think friends. I think you could be naturally friends with somebody. I mean, that's just what I think. Cause I could call everybody my friend. Even when I was younger, I'd call everybody my friend.
Yeah.
Even if they were mean to me, I'd be like, oh, my friend. And my mom was like, weren't they just bullying you last week? And I was like, oh yeah. But I think friends are like friends.
It's hard to explain.
It is hard to explain. Best friends are closer than friends.
Okay.
With best friends, it's kind of like
I think you tolerate more, and because you love them, so you tolerate more.
Like you say that you're much closer to them. You have more of an emotional connection and emotional bond with them versus somebody who's a friend, who is just kind of like when you're a friend. Like it kind of goes back to, I don't want to say like the dating thing, but like. When you're friends, you have no obligations, but when you're like my best friend, like you're obligated to see my annoying side and deal with it.
Yeah.
Like you're close to me, you formed an emotional connection with me. And I feel like, you tell each other secrets and like you trust each other and you build that trust. With somebody who's friends, then I'm not going to tell you my secrets.
So it is like dating, there's boundaries. Because you would tell you only tell share so much about your life, and then with the best friends, kind of like exactly. I don't want to say dating. It sounds so weird, but it is kind of like there's boundaries.
Right, exactly. There's boundaries around those things, and I think there's a big difference because I think secrets and like trust builds deeper emotional connections. So like, cause. And I'm not saying secrets are always good to tell like best friends or whatever. Anyways, when you tell somebody a secret, or when you tell your best friend a secret, you automatically feel like there's a connection like there between you two. I don't know what it is, but there's always that feeling of like
it's trust.
And it's trust, and like you feel like you're protected in a way, but you also feel like once you tell somebody a secret, you also feel like there's like a tie between you two. There's like a connection, like an emotional connection. And I think that only happens with best friends. And I think once you're friends, then you can slowly start, like if you could see yourself becoming best friends with this person, almost like dating.
It is like dating.
It is kind of like dating. It's kind of like you're friends because you're just testing them out to see if they're best friend worthy, like if they're bestie worthy.
There's people they just don't consider friends at all.
And then see, that's the difference. It's like, you're my friend, hi, bye. But like, if you're my best friend, like, no, we're gonna go places, we're gonna do things, we're gonna go on friend dates and stuff. Like, you're obligated to do those things with me, kind of stuff like that. Yeah.
I think for definitely for friends, there is certain things that you only share so much with people, and then. For me, I'm really big on trust. Mm-hmm. That's for me something that it's like how would I word it? Like a building foundation.
Like the foundation of a friendship.
Right.
For me, best friendship.
Right. Actually, for any person, I will say.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I get to know if I will be compatible to be friends with an individual. I have to know
if you could trust
if I can trust them. Yeah, trust them and respect me in those kind of aspects.
What are when you date somebody? You have certain standards that you want. Like if you tell somebody like, oh, what are you looking for in a guy? What are you looking for in a friend? Like what are some qualities that you need in a friend?
Okay, so I'll list a couple that I think are important. I'm sure I can say like there's a lot of them, I'm sure. Yeah. And please don't judge me if I forget some. I'm just trying to go off the top of my head. I will. So again, going back with trust is definitely something that is important to me. Trust is important. Someone that you can share some personal information and that they won't judge you for what you're saying, and just being there for you like when your life is not just good but it also gets really complicated and ugly. And also I think it's kind of important, maybe it's something that no one really talks about, but when someone sees like the ugly side of you and they can still be friends with you, because we're humans and we sometimes have bad days, especially women. I feel like we have more emotional problems than men.
I mean, there's a lot of things going on.
Right. It's a lot of like emotional things that happen, and sometimes we can project it out, and we can be very, I mean, I can be kind of rude sometimes. So I think that's important too. That I guess if I'm having a bad day, for example, mean that someone won't judge me and say, "Oh, I don't want to hang out with her." It's just like a bad side of me that I had that day.
Yeah, exactly. Like somebody that would tell you like, "Oh, she's just having a bad day," like, kind of give you the benefit of the doubt,
right?
Yeah.
Honesty.
That's a big one, and I've only known a few people who are really honest.
We tell someone like, "Oh, how do I look in this?" And like, "Oh yeah, you look fine." And then
I don't like that.
And then I ask Jose, or I ask my husband, he'd be like, "Take that off right now. That looks horrible on you." That's what I'm talking about, like honesty.
Yeah. It's hard to find, but like even like if it hurts your feelings, I notice like even when it hurts people's feelings, I notice people always gravitate towards people who are always honest. Like my mom and my brother, they're really, really honest people. And even though they could sometimes be harsh and blunt, people always gravitate towards them and always trust them. Like that trust is always there because they're so honest, even though it's harsh or blunt at the time.
Right. What about you?
Oh man.
You can't copy mine. I'm just kidding.
I think anybody, and it's funny because I think David would attest to this, but anybody who wants to be close to me needs to have patience.
Okay.
Needs to have patience and empathy.
Okay.
They need to have like also, I think, respect, honesty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the really two big ones would have to be three. Patience, empathy, and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Empathy. Actually, I want to look that up to see if I'm like thinking of the right word.
I think it is empathy.
Empathy definition is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. So I think it's like emotionally understanding.
Right. Because those women are emotional.
So I think empathy and understanding are the same thing, right?
Mm.
Okay. So I think just like empathy and patience and kindness, basically.
Kindness, right.
Oh, forgiveness. That's a big one for me because I'm the kind of person where I could be like upset one day or like if something's going on, and then like the next day, like I'll just like kind of like forget about it, and I would want that other person to like not hold a grudge against me, so we could kind of both move on. Like we don't have to say anything to each other. We're just like, oh, we know.
Just a time will heal, like a day or something will heal. You have to talk about it again.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about it again. It's just like, oh, you know what, that was yesterday. Today's today.
You know what the worst is when you think, how would I say it? I think the worst is when someone says, "Oh yeah," like you said, they don't want to talk. Like they looks like they're over, but they're really not.
They're really not, and they still hold that grudge.
That is the worst.
It is, and it's like you can't really move past that because you know that, and it
makes you uncomfortable.
It makes you uncomfortable, and it also like bothers you in a way because it's like I could sense that there's something wrong, but I don't. It's like that person wants to act like a certain way.
It's weird how we can pick up on people's energy without them saying absolutely anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's
so true. I feel like only a few people could do that, but I
can do that very well.
Yeah.
I read people's body language very well. I don't know why or how. I'm just weird like that.
I think even like being in church, you could just kind of see how everybody is also too. You could also kind of learn how like different people's body languages are. So
especially people don't pick that up, and for some reason I really do. I just really notice like small things. Even like if someone tells you, "Oh, I'm okay," or "I'm fine," like I know they're not. And some people will just say, "Okay, they're fine," but I sense something deeper. I'm like something's odd. Yeah, something's odd.
Yeah, like that inner. That's what I think empathy is. It's like understanding.
And I think talking about like friendships and like we talk about being Christians, it can be very challenging. How Christ commands us to forgive people, and when they hurt you, it can be very difficult. It can be hard. It's one thing just to say it, but I think deep inside when you've been hurt and someone says sorry to you, you have to forgive them, or whatever happens or occurs. It can be hard. It's not that if people think Christians, oh yeah, you guys are you say sorry, forgive and forget, but I think for Christians, it's challenging. It's a very
It
humbling
is.
experience.
It is because like, and it's
difficult.
happened a few times to me where like
Everyone's gone through something like that.
where
Everybody.
you're in ministry and the other person is in ministry and
We clash.
you guys are clashing or something's going on or problems start arising, and the next day you just have to kind of move on from it because like you have to also think about it in a way where it's like, do you know what, we both have to like mutually like decide on individually, like this is how it's supposed to be in the church. We individually, we don't need to come together. We should individually just deal within ourselves and just be like, do you know what, this is supposed to be a church and we are united and we are one body and we cannot work together if we are not in the same, if we do not have the same mind, if we are not agreeing,
you'll be divided.
Yeah, so exactly, like if we don't have unity, we will be divided. So it's like, even though like we might clash outside of church, at least mutually understanding and agreeing to work together for the church. And that's one thing that you guys could both like, that's something that you guys could both like put aside and put the church first for that, because ultimately the church goes first, you know. So I feel like Christ always put people always like first before himself and his personal, you know, things. I think. I don't know what I'm saying. Whatever.
Well, they to be judging you.
I know, it used to be like.
Okay, so I have a question. Do friends of the opposite sex exist when you're dating? And what would be the boundaries? This is actually a really big question. I was literally talking about this with Jose while, like, I think it was today or yesterday, talking about this.
Okay, ask me again.
Ask the question again?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you an example.
Okay, give me an example.
Let's say, I'll use me. Me, I am still dating. I'll use dating.
Okay.
That's something that maybe people can relate. Dating or married, whatever we can use. Let's just say me, I have Jose, and we're dating. But then before I met Jose, I already had a friend that happens to be a guy. It's not a girl, but it's a guy friend. Is he a
best friend or is he just a friend?
Let's say it is a best friend in this scenario. Best friend, right? I say best friend.
Yeah.
And I meet Jose, and is that something that a relationship is okay? Is it something that you don't do? I don't know. There's an answer. I don't know. There's an answer to that question, really.
I think you could still be friends with them, but there has to be boundaries. There has to be more boundaries than they were when you were single.
Okay.
Than there were when you were single and you were friends with them.
Okay.
There has to be more boundaries set. Like, you know, I think, and also I think it's important too that you try to. I mean, I've never dated, but I feel like if that were to happen to me, then I think I would try to get them to be friends, to be best friends, and kind of, I don't want to say replace me, but I would much rather have like my boyfriend and my friend.
So we're hearing you say that. Sorry, boyfriend. You go ahead.
Wow.
I never used the word my boyfriend. Go ahead, sorry.
I would rather my boyfriend. I would rather my boyfriend and my friend to be friends rather than me and my friend, because I feel like that would just. I feel like that's kind of weird in a way. I mean, I would feel like that if I was in a relationship with somebody and he had a friend that was a girl. I feel like he should try to encourage me to be friends with her, and he should set those boundaries and be like,
"Do you feel uncomfortable though?"
I would
honestly,
I would.
Let's say that you're dating someone and there is the other girl, and they're friends. So let's just say you two become friends, you and the other girl. But we're talking about boundaries, but what do you do? What if you normally like texts her, or you know what I mean, like calls her?
I think there has to be boundaries set.
Someone's gonna get hurt.
Yeah, because that's really hard, because you would have to really talk to your boyfriend, and you would have to like tell him, like, listen, there has to be some boundaries, and you have to like understand where I'm coming from as well. Because what if that was me? You wouldn't want me. I think that you should not text. I mean, you could text like here and there, but it shouldn't be like a full conversation on text with another girl. Because why? You know what I mean? It's like you're giving space. I feel like you're giving unnecessary space to the devil to do things, and to kind of like, I don't want to say tempt you in a way, but in a way you kind of are tempting the devil to cheat. Or even if that's not even like in the back of your mind, or you say you're never going to cheat, things do happen, and the devil do gets in the middle of things. Whether we think about it, whether we never thought about it before, things do happen, even like the things that we least expect. So to avoid all of that, why not just to avoid all of that? Like the texting, if they went on hangouts or whatever, like if they went and they did things together, like that has to stop. Like that's gonna stop.
That's what I was thinking.
There's gonna be double dates now.
What I'm saying is something has to get sacrificed on someone's behalf. And
it's gonna be sad. It's kind of sad in a way, but at the same time, like, this is kind of like real life. Like, you just evolve and you just grow out of. I don't want to say you grow out of things, but like things are constantly moving, and friendships are changing.
Right.
Things are changing.
Because the reason I'm asking, because I had seen a little like Instagram reel, and some guy was talking about this, and I was reading the comments, and people were saying that it's very petty for someone to do that, to have to give. Why would someone have to give up that friendship if just they're only dating someone? And I mean,
I think it also, like, when you're, it also depends on like how serious you are too. Because if you're serious with him, then it's like you want to make that boundary. Like, why is there a need for another friend when you have your boyfriend, or
right.
if you have your girlfriend? Like, they should be your friend. They should be your best friend.
But I think naturally too, when you start dating someone, you spend so much time with them, and that person already is gonna start to just fade away. That's how I think. That's how I see it.
I think it would also be hard if the friend was single. That would be very hard.
Right.
If the friend was single, I would feel like, for me, I would feel like I'm kind of doing them a disservice, because I'm kind of like leaving them in the dark. So I mean, I would try my best to do whatever I could to get my boyfriend and him to be friends, like best friends, more than I was with him.
Right.
That's how I would want it.
But I think also the good thing about, like, even for example for us, if we're in church and let's just say like we're all together, and we can all still hang out mutually. You know what I mean? Like everyone together. So we would be having church events, and it's still everyone's still together.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Exactly. What do you think though?
Well, what I was thinking, because now that we're talking about it, I'm thinking, because people say, and I was asking him, I don't know how true this is, to be honest, because people say that most of the time, like, those best friends don't like each other, but I really have to wonder, like, how common is it if people don't like each other, like, really don't like each other, or if someone likes another, you know what I mean? Not just blaming the man likes the girl, but I'm wondering in this case how common
I feel like it might be a little bit. I feel like it might be common, just because naturally you feel like that person's a threat, and then they feel like you're a threat, because not only are you, so from a girlfriend's perspective, like, I feel threatened because it's another girl,
right?
And we know how girls are. You know what I mean? Yeah, and girls are naturally very territorial. But if I was in that friend's shoes, I would also feel like, hey, you're also taking my best friend away.
Right.
Like, who are you to just come into his life out of nowhere and just completely, like, throw me off to the side? So I feel like I could understand both sides. So I could understand why it would be more common that they would butt heads, because they're both kind of like fighting for the guy, and the guy's like in the middle. Right. You know what I mean? Or the girl's in the middle or whatever.
Right. So
like they're fighting for hers or his attention.
Yeah, basically. Okay, actually one thing I want to share something of an experience.
Oh,
but I want to we want to talk about the boundaries first, and then I want to talk about that story because it'll go in.
It'll go good.
Yes.
With it. Okay. So
boundaries that you think will be respectable. What is that word?
Respectable.
Respectable boundaries.
Yeah. So what are respectable boundaries? Is
right.
If I was in a relationship.
Right.
For me, saying that he had a girl best friend.
Right. Or vice versa.
It would have to be if for me, like in this present moment, I would tell him like there needs to be boundaries with, how he texts her, or how often he texts her, and especially like he could text her, but like to a minimum, and like I wouldn't even let him hang out with her alone, just because I feel like, why would you?
It's out of respect because
it's out of respect. Yeah, it's like a respect thing. I also think, what else? I'm trying to think of what else. Like what else? What? I think just how often they hang out, and even hanging out in general.
Yeah.
So if he wants to hang out with her, like I need to be there.
Right.
Or yeah.
I think so. Something I was gonna share was, it's very hard. It's very hard, I think, to have a best friend of the opposite sex. And hold on, let me word this properly. I think it's very hard to have a friend of the opposite sex because I feel that sometimes they're gonna think you like them or there's some kind of interest. Because when I met Jose, we were working in together, and there was a guy there. So before I met him, it's a new job. Because I just moved to a new city. I'm working at a new place. I don't know anybody.
Right.
And this guy was trying to befriend me, and I didn't see it as if me wanting to date him. I just didn't have any friends, so I would hang out with him at work and we would just talk. And I remember that time, and maybe this could have been my mistake. This probably could have been my mistake, and I didn't know. But we would eat together, or like I said, mentioned meet at work, or we would sometimes go out and eat with other people from work. So I remember specifically one day that he told me, I'll never forget this. He told me, "So what are we?" And I said,
"Oh no."
And I said, "What do you mean?" He told me, "So are we dating or what?" And I said, "I'm sorry if I gave you the wrong impression, but I told him I'm not interested in dating him right now. I just thought we were friends." And he was really offended, and he was, he really was really upset. And maybe it was my fault, but I didn't see it that way, but he saw it that way. You know what I mean? And he genuinely got hurt. And that wasn't my intention at all. But that's what I'm saying, like, how do you draw that boundary? Like, it's hard to be a friend with an opposite sex without them maybe thinking that they like you, or, do you know what I mean? And maybe it was wrong, but I don't know how you differentiate.
I feel like it's more common for girls to, like, seek male friendships because it always feels like you balance each other out. Like, when you get two girls all the time, like, all the time, like, it's like you guys are both clashing.
Right.
It's because girls can only be together for so long, unless it's like a mother and a daughter, or like a sister and a sister. But even then, like, they have like really big problems. So that's why I feel like we need men to balance us out and kind of be a little bit more chill. And I think that's why girls naturally want that male friendship. And even though like we don't see it that way, they might see it that way, or they might want something a little bit more. But even though we are just seeking friendship, we're just seeking
the companionship.
The companionship.
Right.
But you could get that companionship through whoever you choose to date.
Right.
But the thing is like with girls, or I mean with me, like I seek that companionship like not just only in dating but only like also in friendships. But it's kind of also hard because it's kind of like you have to choose your battles wisely because you could kind of see where things get I got tongue tied for a second. You could kind of see where things kind of get twisted.
Right.
You better not put that on there. You could kind of see where things kind of get like twisted or things kind of like you get like mixed signals from the other. I don't know, like they could say that you are giving them mixed signals, but that's really hard. That's
Do you
really
want to know what
tough.
else happened after that?
What happened?
So after that,
You started dating Jose.
yeah. And we were in the same.
No, that is crazy.
Because I told him that I wasn't looking at dating anybody, and I really wasn't.
And then the next
Because I had
day-
just got out of a really long relationship. So I really wasn't looking for anything. I really wasn't.
Uh-huh.
And then after me working there for some time,
Mm.
and to be honest, I didn't really notice him. Up to this day, he told me he would talk to me,
Uh-huh.
and I did not even notice him or remember seeing him in my mind. He said I would speak to him. He would try and talk to me. I don't remember really ever seeing him. So I really wasn't looking for a man, like a guy at all. So I was just like focusing on God. I didn't want absolutely anything else. So that's kind of where my life was because I was getting kind of rebuilt. So, he comes along. I start to meet him, and we start going. We're dating. Starting to get to know each other, and as friends, and they're just trying to get dating. And then I remember he came up to me. He came up to me and he told me, he texted me. He texted me and told me, I thought you weren't going to date anybody. You were not interested in dating anybody. And I said, I didn't know what to say. And then it was so awkward because we worked together and he was so angry. He was so mad. And I just didn't like him. Like, I didn't like him. I wasn't
The good thing
dating
is
him.
that's what I kind of don't understand because guys are like, well, why don't you just be upfront and honest with me? But then when we're upfront and honest, like you just throw a tantrum. So it's like,
Or
what
if you just don't like that person now? You just don't like them to date them.
yeah. Then you're just
why is that my fault?
Then when you're saving them the trouble. If anything, you're pretty much telling them, hey, I'm not going to waste your time. So toodaloo.
Yeah, but that was kind of, I just think for me, like, I just think it was kind of creepy. He was kind of weird, dude.
That is really awkward.
Like it was a kind of weird situation because we'll be working and then I would say, man, I really want candy because I like sour candy. I really want candy. And then I will like after my shift, I'll go home, like going home.
And he would give you sour candy.
No, I would see that like on my car, like he left to leave it on my car. I said, okay, that's kind of weird. I did not ask.
No, you already know, like, oh no, this is turning into a problem.
I was like,
that is so stressful too because it's also stressful because it's like it's not like it's so easy for us to like say like no, I don't like you, just go on with your day, stop doing things for me.
Again, I just thought we were friends, but I just went bad.
It's not easy to do, but
and he cried too.
Oh man, that's so sad.
I didn't mean for that to happen, but he was crying.
But it's better. I mean, he's probably married now, and he's probably like very thankful for that.
So I know Jose's very grateful for that.
I know Jose's very grateful.
Oh my god.
Chase is too.
Dude, later on one of the podcasts, we gotta talk about jealousy in that work, that place, because I do have a story. We'll talk about that later.
That is crazy. That's really hard because I feel like that's an everyday. That's like in a lot of people's. I feel like that relates to a lot of people.
It can happen to anybody, really.
Yeah, like you could have like a male best friend or girl best friend, and you start dating, and I feel like also that happens with girls too.
Oh yeah, so we're not throwing shit at the guys. It can be both ways.
Yeah, because I feel like when you start to like if you and your friend are both single and you guys are both girls, and a guy comes along and like takes that friend away or whatever, then there's always that like, oh, like she got taken away, or there's
You're right.
It's just it's sad. It sucks.
It's part of life.
It sucks, but it's a part of life. Like I think that's why. You know how I said how things could evolve? Like things are constantly always changing. Things are not the same. I think that's where it could kind of go wrong, even with the friendship too. That is the opposite sex, is because things are always evolving and changing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way of life. So naturally for a man or for a woman to think is, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? Because
Right.
there's steps. There's like friend, there's acquaintance, friend, best friend, date, engage, marry.
Mm-hmm.
There's all that stuff. And so I feel like naturally, you know, you want to go to the next step because you want to evolve. That's the way of life. But for some people, it might be different.
Right.
But it is hard. That's a very like...
I don't know if anyone actually has an answer for that, to be honest. But I think, like, you're right, talking about from a Christian point of view.
There's a lot of things that you have to sacrifice, I feel like. When you get into a relationship, there's just a lot of things.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true.
Because you're also thinking about, like, the other person, too. Like, taking care of them. Like, that's just, like, a big thing is just taking care of the other person. It's not just you thinking about your feelings anymore. It's about you
accommodating for somebody else.
Yeah, another mind, another head to take care of.
Right, basically,
yeah.
So that was the other question. Then
I have one. So what's a deal breaker? What's a deal?
We actually never got into
what's the deal breaker for?
Okay. For a friendship, I think the deal breaker
for a friendship.
I would say I'm trying to actually think of maybe a scenario or something in my mind. Do you want to go first? I feel like
a deal breaker. Oh man,
because there's so many. It's hard to just pinpoint to one thing.
It's funny because I'm thinking of a specific person right now, and he might be in this room. He's looking over here.
Okay, well, let's see.
A deal breaker. For me.
I thought about something.
What?
Someone who you can't trust.
Yeah.
Okay, I know another good one. Scratch that. Someone that claims to be your friend, but is really not your friend. If that makes any sense. Like, they claim to be there for you, but at the same time, you just maybe start to notice things about people and they're hurting you. And you think maybe it's normal, but you're realizing that it's kind of... I don't know if people don't like this word toxic, but it's kind of...
toxic.
And my brother hates that word. It's like, oh, toxic. But people... I believe in that. People that are toxic, maybe they think that they are your friends, but they kind of have hidden motives. You know, people kind of talk to you in a certain way, and they're intentionally... I know what I'm talking about. Like, they intentionally kind of hurting you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, by using their words, like, so sly.
Manipulating.
Yeah, it's like in a way where it's so sly.
You don't even notice you're getting hurt.
Yeah, you don't even notice it till after the fact, or you notice it and you try to express to them what they're doing wrong, and then it almost sounds like they do it in such a conniving way where you can't even express it anymore. It's because it's so like they surface it in such a conniving...
Well, it can be disguised, and
disguised.
Nobody else will even notice it around you.
Yeah.
Right? It can happen in front of people, and later on, you're thinking to yourself, did they just say that to me? And it dawns on you later on that it was actually like an insult. So I think for me, that's definitely something I don't like. Or someone's, how can I put this? Maybe when someone doesn't want to see you succeed.
I think somebody that
pushes you down a lot.
Yeah. I think somebody that also lies to you a lot.
Yeah. Well, one thing about me, I'm a really bad liar. God, I don't know how to lie, but that's something... Yeah, I know what you're saying, though.
Like, somebody that lies to you a lot, like, I don't know. I feel like somebody that's very dishonest, somebody that lies, is a deal breaker. Somebody who's violent and aggressive, I feel like that's, like, that's a deal breaker for me. Somebody who's aggressive.
Right.
violent. Like, you know, they wanna like fight it out.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if this is a deal breaker, but maybe when you're just not very compatible, you know what I mean? There's just some people that you just don't get along with, and you just kind of always get into arguments, and I wonder if that's a deal breaker.
Like,
just can't. It's hard to get along. I can't explain it.
Like you guys are always fighting like a married couple.
Basically.
Let me see. Actually, I want to look it up. There has to be more of like deal breakers in a friendship. Let me see.
I'm sure there's a lot.
There has to. Let me see. Okay, is this a deal breaker? So your friend regularly cancels plans without warning or explanation constantly. Like it's constantly happening. Like they go out with you like every once in a while and they go through with their plans, but every once in a while, like, or all the time, they're consistently like canceling plans or giving you no explanation or no warning about it. They just.
Well, I think that.
Do you think that's a deal breaker?
So that's someone that would probably would have trust issues with, someone that's not very consistent. So I think I think it would be, because if you're going out of your way to plan something and someone just kind of blows you off,
that would make me so upset.
I think I'd be more heartbroken than anything, because you got your way to do something and you have everything planned up, and then you just say,
right,
oh, forget it.
Yeah.
You kind of put your time aside. For me, I'm big on, I'm big on time. Like my like time's important, and when you put your
time is important. Yeah.
Time aside for someone, and they just don't bother to put an effort or care, because as we're talking about friendships, it takes two, so we have to work, together, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
what about somebody? I feel like these are all deal breakers. It says somebody who makes a career out of competing with you, or somebody who constantly competes with you.
Yeah,
that's another big.
That's what I was saying. As someone that's trying to.
Always like try to like supersede you, or like supersede.
Because if you're friends with someone, it shouldn't be a competition for you. If someone does something, you want to rejoice and be happy for them, not try and say, oh, well, she did this, I gotta do better.
Yeah.
I gotta do better. It shouldn't be that way, because you gotta ask yourself, what is your motive? Are you really my friend?
Yeah, exactly. Or
that's what I would think.
Yeah, that's true. All deal breakers, like people, like it says when they talk about their friends behind their backs, or they pick random fights with you, or they openly put you down.
Right.
They need lots of attention but only give a little back. That's a big one.
They drain you.
One. Yeah, that's actually happened to me a couple of times.
They drain you.
Yeah, where it's like they always want a lot of. I don't know why my phone just took a picture of that. They need like lots of attention, but like when it comes to your turn, it's like they only give you like a little bit of feedback, and that's happened before. And I'm like, that's not a deal breaker, but it's just kind of like, okay, like enough.
It has to be mutual. I'm telling you, it has to be mutual.
Yeah. So those are like a few, I guess, that Google gave us. So
shout out to Google.
Shout out Google. So, what about for you? Like, what does a healthy friendship look like? What is a healthy friendship?
Okay. I think for sure, a healthy friendship is someone. It could be someone that you can be around, and when you have like a really bad day, you're going through something, like you're just going through a really hard time. As Christians, we go through really hard like trials or whatever you want. Everyone goes through their times of life, and someone you can kind of go around those people, you kind of forget all that. I know that after you hang out with certain people, maybe you go back home and it's still there, but at the time it kind of really helps. You can kind of get away with certain people, or kind of like when sometimes we go hiking, like I can be going through like the most horrific mental things in my mind that I don't want to deal with, and we go hiking. I just with you guys, I kind of like my mind goes somewhere else, and I'm just thinking about happy things, or I'm just surrounded by like laughter. Yeah. So
laughing. Got that.
Laughing. I was gonna say laughter and laughing. Shut up. You was up in a word, guys. I didn't say anything. I stayed very quiet.
I will find it.
I'll make a reel out of it. But yeah, but I think like building memories. I'm a really big person at building memories with people.
Yeah.
Definitely, I really like being around people that have positive energy. I don't like being because sometimes I can be very negative, and I don't can't be around negative. I have to be around positive.
Positive vibes.
Positive vibes, exactly.
Positive vibes.
Definitely, but that I mean, there's just obviously a lot, but just someone you could just be like.
I feel like
yourself.
Somebody
around.
who I read something online the other day where it's like it says something like, what was it? Be around people who.
Oh, I know you. I think
be around people who like who make you like the better.
Excuse my dog in the background.
It says like surround yourself with people or focus on the people that make you or pay attention to how people make you feel, right? And you know, like when you pay attention my gosh.
It's coming back to haunt you, making fun of me.
I know.
Karma.
Oh, he's laughing over there. He's probably laughing at his phone. But anyways, when you pay attention to how people make you feel, like whether when you're going out or like on hangouts, you really want to pay attention to those people. And I feel like when I don't know.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. Just cut this part out.
Okay.
Today's a crazy day. But anyways, pay attention to how people make you feel, and if they don't make you feel good, then not a healthy friendship.
Right. I think we're trying to maybe say. I thought you were trying to say when people say people make this. I don't know if it's a quote or not, but people say when someone builds you up and not tears you down. Someone that's helping you build up.
Yeah.
And not tear you down.
Somebody who makes you feel good too.
Right.
There was a friend that I had, and it like every time that I would always like hang around her, I would like most of my life I've always felt like super self-conscious. I was always super shy. So when I was around her, she was very outgoing. She was very confident in who she was. And she knew who she was. She was older, you know. And whenever I was around her, I always immediately felt like my shoulders would perk up and I would feel like this confidence because it's almost like she was confident in herself and like it almost like inspired me in a way. And I always felt like so good like hanging around her and like super positive. I loved it. Like my personality was feeding off of it. Like I loved it. It was weird, and I miss that feeling because I'm not with her anymore. Like I'm not like friends with her anymore or as close.
Right.
But like that's gonna be another podcast of like I want to bring her on like actually like on here. That would be so cool. Like just to talk about like confidence and like because she would mention a few times, you know, about like she would, you know, going through nursing school and stuff like that. Her parents would send her like these messages, or her dad sent her like messages, like very like encouraging messages to her, and they were so wise. And she would like send them to me, to kind of like remind me, and you know, like she would share with me. Right. So in that way, her dad was encouraging her, and she was getting encouraged, but she didn't know she was also encouraging me by sharing what her dad had said.
Right.
And so I feel like that was such a huge help for me, especially since I was so young, you know, going into nursing school, like straight away from high school. I was 17 when I was going into nursing school. Right. I was like the youngest in my class. And so, you know, and especially for somebody who's going from a homeschool to a public college, like that was, it was a shock. So I feel like she really helped me with like confidence and stuff like that. And she was such a great example of that. And it would be really good to have her on here.
I really wonder if she felt so inclined to help you because maybe she saw herself in you maybe when she was maybe first starting. And I don't know. I could ask her that when we get her on, but I wonder if that was something that she saw. I don't know if she was always like that, or usually circumstances in your life shape who you are and make you tough or make you a certain way.
Yeah.
So
she was all around a good person. When we had first met, it was actually kind of funny because like I knew she didn't like me, but
why?
I don't know. It was kind of like she just gave off like a mean girl vibe. And she might be watching this, might not be, but I know she knows this too. Because she was even telling me, she's like, I know I gave off that like mean girl vibe at first, you know, or whatever, but like things had happened to us where it was like, it kind of built that friendship between us and like a group in our nursing school class. So yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I think sometimes girls give off that bad girl vibe is kind of to let people know, like, don't mess with me.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Because I mean, I'm always like really, I would consider myself to be a really kind person, but I remember when I was like, when I would work around other people, at first I would let people treat me a certain way, and after how you talk about people encouraging other people, your dad would encourage me and tell me, you know, there's a certain way to, you don't want to let people step all over you because you're a Christian.
Right.
And he would like speak to me. And he would speak to me like a certain, he would encourage me. And I remember that when I would go to work, not that I was rude or mean, but I would kind of wouldn't let anyone treat me a certain way. And that's how kind of have to be. I kind of let people know, like, hey, you know, it's not okay to treat me that way. So that's probably what it was. But you still friended her, so she said, okay, I can trust her.
Yeah, it was like multiple like situations that had happened. I think that like kind of brought us together, like in a friendship. But like there's like a series of events that happened that was just absolutely insane. That I'm sure like she could share with you guys if she came on here. But there was just, oh, man, there was so many stories going on during that time. It was really rough for me and for her and for whoever else was involved as well. But man, I'm like looking back on it, I'm like, wow.
Right.
It's crazy how like long ago that was. So like thinking back, like 17 years old, I'm 22 now. It's crazy. There is some friendships that don't work at all. And I've experienced so many of like trial and error, like not trial and errors, but like, you know how like when you test out like certain people, see if they're compatible with you. But like I've gone through so much of that, like in church, older women, younger women, middle-aged women, all the women.
All the women.
All the women.
All the women's.
All the women's.
In and out of church.
Yes. But there was also another question that I wanted to ask. I think this might be the last question.
Okay.
But there was, I wanted to know what you thought. So let's say you were dating your husband, right? Let's just say you were dating him.
Okay. And
let's say you were best friends. Let's say I was your best friend.
Okay.
See what you would do. If I was your best friend and let's say he didn't like me.
Okay.
Not me don't like him. I love Jose. I love your boyfriend.
But he doesn't like you.
But he does not like me.
Okay.
What happens?
What happens?
Are you gonna stop liking me? Are you gonna stop hanging out with me?
Okay, that's actually a good question. So I would, and then actually to make another point, I would have known you more than the boyfriend.
Right.
I would have known you more. Mm-hmm. I would have to ask. First, I wouldn't just take his word for it. I have to say, what is the reason behind it? Why don't you like my friend? What is the problem? What is it that you don't like about this individual?
What if he's like, you know, I've observed how she is with you and how she is with others, and I know her motives, and they're not what you think. Her intentions and her motives are not what you think. What are you gonna say?
Wait, so would this be true, or would this be what he's observing?
I don't know. you have to decide for yourself.
I mean, if I've known someone,
I'm super indecisive, so I'd be like, pick for me.
I honestly, again, I would have to ask him and tell him, but then I would have to make my own judgment if that was to be true. If I never felt that before, then I wouldn't take his word for it. But the thing is that when you tell someone something, even though it's not true, they start to think, is it true? And that's like a mind game. And I hate that. It happens to people.
Yeah, it is.
So I would have to, like I said,
what if he's like, you know what? I really don't want you to hang out with her. I really don't. I really, really, really don't. And if you do, it's going to be a problem with me.
I couldn't do that.
And I was like,
and
then I was just talking so good about him, like just yesterday. I was saying like what a good boyfriend he is, and we're like planning your wedding and whatever. And then all of a sudden he just says stuff like this. What'd you do? Would you break up with him?
I would really have to. I would have to analyze the situation. I would not just take someone's word for it.
Break up.
Then he's really not gonna like you. I wouldn't be that quick just to break up with, like, to break up with someone or lose a friend.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I would really have to figure out what's going on. We have to have a meeting with both of you, and I have to say, okay, what's going on?
That's what I'm saying. I feel like it would have to be like a. Yeah.
What would you do?
I would have to get both of them together. I'd have to
cat fight.
Yeah, I feel like it might just turn into cat fight though, so it could backfire on me.
And then they all turn on you and they don't like you.
Yeah, they both don't like me. They both break up with me. That would suck.
Oh,
bye.
Imagine.
There goes my problems.
And then they get together.
That would
seen a movie that happened.
So bad.
I've seen a movie that happening.
Oh my god. What movie is that?
I don't know. I'm gonna give you the name later, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's such a hard thing to even decide.
Yeah.
Some people just be.
I feel like.
What do you think?
Friendships and relationships are so similar.
They are, because it requires you dividing your attention and dividing attention for one if you're dating someone or someone's with a friend, and a friendship has certain kinds of values that some person gives you when you're dating someone, so they add something else, they contribute something different. They're not exactly equal,
right?
But they're still both a part of your life. So
exactly, and it's like you both still have to, like, I don't want to say go on dates, but like basically go on dates and like figure out if you like them to be your friend or if you don't like them to be your friend and how they are.
Yeah. I think in that scenario, I would say you guys just get along together. We're gonna hang out and we're gonna work this out together, whether you guys like it or not. Just work it out.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to do it. You keep both.
Yep. We keep both or we lose them both.
And then they could start
dating. There goes
dating.
all my problems.
And then they could start dating.
And then they start dating. Whatever. Gosh. That's horrible. But anyways.
Was that our last question?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was basically our last question. I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, we were trying to think of questions, like, revolving around, like, friendships and stuff. So that's basically, like, what we both came up with. And, like, just situations. Your phone floppered. But those are just basically questions that we had come up with. Like I said in, like, the previous video, I like to come up with situations for myself. I'm sure she does come up with situations.
I think
for
it's
herself.
more you like doing that. You like to make fake scenarios in your head and try and solve a problem.
You're telling me you don't like to do that either? Jose, does she do that? He said yes. He's nodding.
I think I do a lot of what ifs.
What if I could see you, like, always starting the sentence with what if this and what if
Jose's that's like, me all the time. I should wear just what if. I'm always a what if person all the time.
Yeah.
Always, yes.
I'm always like, I wonder.
You're the I wonder. I'm the what if person.
I'm like, I wonder. And I'm like, man, this is hard. Anyways. So that was our friendship episode. So if you guys come up with any other questions, let us know. We can make a part 2, right?
Yes.
Unless this is a part 2.
We'll see.
Anyways, that concludes our podcast episode.
Hopefully people comment so we can read that questions. Yeah. Encourage everyone to make comments so we kind of see. And then have any more questions or ideas for
So if you want to be our friend, please subscribe and leave a comment and like our video and stalk us. Okay, bye.